the next evolution of Antifa, by the way, is going to be in terms of their targets. Look, Antifa knows that they on a subconscious level, on a in sort of the super ego of Antifa, they understand that they are, or they believe that they are the true warriors of justice and righteousness, fighting against the targets of evil, the forces of evil. And so what they're doing is they're waiting to use these swarm tactics against a localized entity of evil, a locus of evil, if you will. And so if you look at those loci, it's not Donald Trump anymore because he's off the stage. It's not Trump supporters because you don't see them organizing or holding rallies in any significant feature, although we may see that this weekend with the return of Trump to, I believe he's going to Ohio this weekend, Cleveland area. But you look at what's going on. They're going after teachers now. They're going after parents, places like Loudoun County, Fairfax County, where if you don't believe in the new regime's agenda that's being indoctrinated to your children, well, they're going to go after you, and the teachers will post your address. They'll post your phone number, and we did the Antifa documentary last year, and Libby Emmons, who we interviewed for it, she's the editor-in-chief of Post Millennial. She pointed out that in one of the videos, I think it was New York City, they had people marching past somebody's house, and they knew it was somebody's house, right? And they were calling up and they were saying, Michaela, come join us. Come join us, right? You have to join us. So in the new morality, if you don't join, you're part of the problem. And I say new, but this is not new, because we've seen this in the Chinese Cultural Revolution. We've seen this in the Bolshevik Revolution. This idea that if you are not of the revolution, if you are not of the new regime, then you are an enemy. And when you look at those photos, right, of the struggle sessions from the Chinese Cultural Revolution, and they were forced to wear the signs across their neck, and they're paraded in front of stadiums, and got their arms tied behind them and pulled back. Sometimes they were allowed to live, sometimes not. But many of the times, do you know what's actually written in Chinese on their on those signs?
Mm-mm. No, sir. What is it?
Right-wing extremist. It says right-wing extremist, right? That's the exact same label that we saw at the height of Mao's terror and his purges, a decade where people would, in many cases, commit suicide after they'd been targeted, rather than face that kind of mob justice, because they knew what was happening would be 10 times worse.
I think you made a really good point here, indirectly, which is that the CRT woke folks, they are adopting Antifa tactics, whether they may be conscious of it or not. I suspect that they're being educated. They have overlapping groups. These teachers in Loudoun County, etc. Unless you've got evidence that Antifa is directly involved, it seems to me that they are adopting these tactics, these same strategies. You remember in DC when this last summer, when Antifa and BLM would just march around up and down commercial strips, walk into outdoor eating areas, up onto tables with like 50 people pointing and screaming at individuals who are just having dinner and forcing them to say the words, forcing them to say, Jack, they did that to me once. There was a time where a kid stole a car or something, and he rode off and he got hit by another car, and they blamed it on the cops. And they were protesting right by my house. I had heard the helicopter flying overhead, so I went to go investigate. I come across 30 or 40 of these guys. I'm the only one out there. And they forced me. They were trying to force me into saying the words. Are you with us? Are you against it? Who are you with? Who are you with? Do you believe? Are you with? Blah, blah, blah. Black Lives Matter. Say it. And I couldn't, of course, and I wasn't. And I definitely wasn't going to do it. But I could feel it in my soul, like, I was definitely not going to say it, but like I could see if I did, like what kind of a soul destroying moment that would be, to just come out,
right,
and make an affirmation against something that you know is evil and wrong.
And what you see going on there is the same as any other type of occupying force throughout history. It is, we are in charge and you will swear fealty to us. Whether you believe it or not makes no difference, because you will acquiesce to our authority, or you will be the victim of our authority. You will be the target of our authority in terms of force, whether that force is physical violence or it's unpersoning, it's having it's reputation assassination, it's being able to destroy you from your bank accounts, your payment processors, your job. You won't be able to hold it anymore. Or in the case of many of these people who are involved, who were peacefully, involved in the January 6th Capitol riot, where, you've got this guy, a Vietnam vet recently, who was just arrested yesterday. And he said, look, I spoke to the police and they opened the door and said it was okay to go in. I just wanted to use the bathroom. And he's getting arrested in front of his grandkids.
Right. And they just sentenced somebody either yesterday, today, the first
Which
one.
People need to understand that those targets that the FBI is putting together are being handed to them by Antifa cells. Okay. Right. You see these people out there, they call themselves the insurrection hunters. This is a digital Antifa cell that has been created to go through and commit and take those tactics of doxing, take those tactics of being able to target somebody, find out everything about their life, and then turn it over. Now the FBI is working hand in hand with the people who call themselves this Antifa cell of insurrection hunters, taking their information and going out and conducting raids, right? Where in many cases, certainly the case of this couple up in Alaska, it's not even the right person, or the person involved wasn't involved in anything violent or themselves. They just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, which is something I said on the day of January 6th, as I was standing on the roof. You know where our building is in DC. I'm standing on the roof of that building, 101 Constitution, looking across, and I'm saying, the people that are coming up behind the very front are going to have no clue what's going on here. They're going to get wrapped up in this, and they're going to walk in because they see the doors open, and it is nominally a public building, right, that's open on a regular basis. And they're going to think that they are on a tour. And so that is being used against them by these cells of the insurrection hunters to go after people, these, grandmothers of 5 and Vietnam vets who, are getting advanced in years, right? The entire narrative is blown up, and everybody can see that the narrative is false, that we've been told about that, but it doesn't matter because, again, acquiescence to the narrative means that you are swearing allegiance, you are swearing fealty to the new regime. They've become linked in a parallel symmetrical structure now, where if you say there was an insurrection on January 6th, it means you are someone who has been fully subsumed by the new regime and by their new moral framework.
100%. Now, give me a couple minutes here because, Jack, I got a lot to cover. First of all, man, you and me, we were supposed to be together on January 6th. You and I were texting and calling each other. We were supposed to meet up and go to the Trump speech together, but we couldn't coordinate. And then we coordinated after the speech. I was like, dude, it's not right. It's not good. And I bailed after the speech. It was just, I just did not want to be there. You were down there on Constitution Avenue.
There was a weird energy. I bailed early. I was out by like 8:30, 8:45.
Yeah. We were supposed to be there together. Now, on this insurrection hunter thing, you and I, again. So if you brought this up to like Good Morning America or whatever, they would laugh at you and be like, this is an absolute joke. But because we're talking, I can tell you, and from personal experience, after A Night for Freedom in 2018, that picture of you and me and Chelsea and Cassandra and Will Chamberlain surfaced from after we did the escape room. And Antifa posted that picture. They're like, look at these fascists that Chelsea Manning is hanging out with. And above each person, they numbered each person. And they put everybody's name on top. They put Jack Posobiec, they put Will Chamberlain, Cassandra Fairbanks. But then there was me and my girlfriend.
My wife was in the picture.
Yeah, my wife, couldn't be wife now, my fiance.
Right. Your fiance is in there.
And there was 2 question marks above our heads. And they figured it out, man. They figured it out. They did some whatever internet genius work. They figured out who I was. They figured out my pen name. They figured out my real name. They figured out where I worked. And then they swarmed and attacked me on social media, got me doxed, fired, and kicked me out of my old career and into this new one, which is an irony into itself. But the point is that these tactics have been in use for years. These teams of people training on this stuff. And you and I were actually part of the way that they've refined these tactics. And now they're using them on the January 6th people. It's going to keep evolving. it's going. They're iterating.
Right, and this is
And
my
in this,
point is that
yes,
not it's gonna go beyond January 6th. January 6th just gives them a
beginning.
target-rich environment, but
Yeah.
you wait. Once that has been depleted, do you think the people who will come up with these tools are just gonna walk away? It's like the military-industrial complex, right? They are gonna find a new villain to fight. There always has to be, a Eurasia that we've always been at war with Eurasia, right? So they're gonna find, oh, here's this father who said something wrong at a school meeting, or here's a guy who said something on in a boardroom, we've got to go after him, or here's a 14-year-old kid on TikTok who's saying something stupid, or here's someone who had said something stupid on TikTok years and years ago, whatever it is, right? Find them, track them down, trace them, destroy their lives. These are the tactics that are being done by these cells, and nobody cares, right? Not only does nobody care that the FBI is now working hand in hand with these people whose declared goal, their declared end state is the eradication of their political opponents.
It's terrifying to think that, because we do know that Christopher Wray said specifically, it's been reiterated. Then Joe Biden said it in his first address of joint session of Congress. He said that white nationalism is the biggest threat that we face in the United States of America. I asked Kash Patel point blank, someone who was the National Security Council top advisor for counterterrorism and the chief of staff of the Secretary of Defense. I asked him point blank, do you have any evidence that white nationalism and white nationalism terror is the number one domestic threat facing the United States? What was his answer? It was an unequivocal no. But yet the FBI director and now our top generals in the military as well, so we're going to get to Milley here in a second. They believe
Remember,
this.
we've always been at war with East Asia. We've always been at war with East
They
Asia.
believe this to be true, and now they can see, I guess they see Antifa as what? Patriots? Antifa are now actual patriots trying to save the establishment, trying to save our government by helping them dox these people. I mean, is that the mindset now of our top military leaders and all of our institutions, that they see Antifa as an aligned group to protect the United States of America, when we know that their stated goal is to destroy the whole thing?